everyone, I'm Heather. Thank you for joining me for today's video, in which I'm going to go over for you how we did with our budget for our 11-day trip that we took in August of 2024. We went to Walt Disney World in Florida, we went to the Kennedy Space Center, and we went on a 4-night cruise on Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas. And then in addition to talking about how we did with our spending, I also want to give you some kind of concluding thoughts on this trip and whether I would do it again. And specifically what I'm talking about is whether I would combine a trip to a theme park like Walt Disney World with a cruise. If you're interested in travel topics like these, make sure that you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you found this video helpful or interesting at all or liked it, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. First of all, I'm going to talk about the price of the cruise. I don't actually remember what I paid for because I had originally booked me, Megan, and Ben, and then later I added Andrew and had to switch Ben from our room into a second room with Andrew, and the whole thing with the pricing of the cruise got kind of messed up. I do remember that it was probably a little over $1,000 each. So it was over $4,000 for the four of us, which is pretty expensive for a 4-night cruise. But the reason that it was expensive is because it was a brand new ship. This was Royal Caribbean's newest ship at the time. So you can always expect, if you're booking a cruise, newer ships are going to be more expensive than older ships. So if you're not particular about one ship and you're more interested in like the itinerary or something like that, don't be afraid to try an older ship. Some of my favorite cruises have actually been on much older ships and smaller ships. I tend to actually prefer those over newer ships. Our airfare, I had budgeted $1,200, so about $300 each. And the reason I had budgeted that is because when I was initially looking for airfare, that's about how much it was. I ended up spending more than that for airfare. Our total for airfare ended up being $1,453. And the main reason for that was because of Andrew's flight from Boston. Megan, Ben, and I flew from Minneapolis to Orlando round trip, but Andrew lives on the East Coast and he had to fly from Boston. And for whatever reason, every flight from Boston to Orlando was at least $100 more than what we paid to fly out of Minneapolis. We ended up paying $337 each for our flights from Minneapolis to Orlando, but Andrew's was $400 something. So the airfare was more expensive than I had budgeted. Airport parking, I had originally budgeted $264. That would have been if I had parked at the main terminal. We ended up parking at the value parking at Terminal 2, and I paid $204. So I paid less for parking, but I decided, as I talked about in that vlog that day, that that was not worth it, that it was too much of a hassle, took too much time and too much energy and work to do all the things we had to do to get from Terminal 2 to Terminal 1. It ended up making us too rushed. It was quite stressful. I'm not going to do that again. From now on, I'm going to park right at the terminal where I'm flying out of. So it wasn't worth saving $60 to me to park at Terminal 2. Cruise parking was exactly what I thought it was going to be. I had budgeted $77 for cruise parking. I prepaid my parking through Park Port Canaveral, and it was $77.31. So that's exactly what it was. I did also tip guys like that load the luggage, the drivers, stuff like that in cash. I had budgeted $175 for a photo package on the ship because that's what it had been when I had first looked at it. But I ended up only paying $160, $199. I'm not sure why that was. I might have gotten some kind of promotion or something from Royal Caribbean. So that one ended up being less than I had budgeted. So that was nice. The rental car was exactly what I had budgeted. I had pre-booked it for $813 and it was exactly $813. That was for 11 days. You might say, isn't that a waste to pay for a rental car when you're parking at the cruise port? Yeah, it kind of seems that way. But if you price out the different ways to get to the cruise port, if you didn't drive yourself in a rental car and stuff like that, it actually ends up being pretty close to the same. So really price doesn't end up being a factor with that decision. It ends up being more of, do you want to drive yourself? Do you want the convenience of somebody else driving for you? You know, what do you prefer? A lot of people take shuttles, but they end up costing the same as if I had the rental car. And I needed the rental car both before and after the cruise. I budgeted $75 a person for our tickets for Kennedy Space Center. And I think that's exactly what they were. One thing that I did not account for was we did also have to pay for parking at Kennedy Space Center. So it was a little bit more than that. Our Walt Disney World hotels, I had budgeted $1,591 for that 5-night stay at Pop Century, 2 rooms. And it ended up being $1,837. However, most of the addition to that was actually things that we charged on our Magic Bands in the parks themselves. So things that we bought and charged to the room, rather than the rooms themselves being more expensive. Our pre-cruise hotel, which was 1-night stay at the Hampton Inn Port Canaveral Cruise Port, I think is the name of it, I had budgeted $567, and it was actually $578. And the part I didn't account for was they did actually charge me for 1 night of parking because I had the rental car, and I didn't realize that when I booked it. Our 3-day tickets for Walt Disney World, I had budgeted $1,068. They were actually $1,322, which I think was tax. Maybe adding a 4th person? I'm not sure, but that was significantly higher than I was expecting. Same thing with the Halloween party tickets. We went to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. I had budgeted $476. It was the tax. I didn't realize that they were adding tax to those price of those tickets, and it was $506.96. All right, I had budgeted $561 for Lightning Lanes, for Lightning Lane Single Pass and Lightning Lane Multi-Pass for when we were in the parks. That actually ended up being less than I had budgeted. I ended up paying $453 for our Lightning Lanes, which was great. To me, that was well worth the money because we didn't wait in a single line and got on every single ride we wanted to. Food at Disney, I had budgeted $1,504, which you'll notice was less than what it would have been for the Disney dining plan. And I made a whole nother video about this. Make sure you check that one out. Which that would have been $1,880 if I had bought the Disney dining plan. So not only did I budget less than the Disney dining plan would have cost, I spent even less than that. I only spent $1,117 on food at Walt Disney World. So I was pretty pleased with that. So not only did I save a significant amount of money by not getting the Disney dining plan, I spent less on food than I had predicted I would. Okay, then the other part of this video that I wanted to share with you today was I had some thoughts about whether I would do this again. Would I combine a theme park, specifically Walt Disney World probably, with a cruise, okay? And I decided that yes, I would, but I would make 3 changes, and there's one thing that I would definitely do the same. The first change that I would make is I would go at a cooler time of year. We went in August because that's when we could go and that's when my birthday was. I hate when my birthday is, by the way, because it's a terrible time to travel, except for cost. Sometimes it's usually the second half of August drops a lot in cost because a lot of school districts are back in session, but weather-wise, it's a terrible time to travel. I would go at a cooler time of year. Fall, winter, spring, anything but summer. It was just very, very, very hot, which made us pretty hot, sweaty, and miserable. It's not fun to travel when it's that hot. So I would go at a cooler time of year. The second thing I would do differently is I would do a Disney cruise. I spent most of the cruise on Royal Caribbean's Utopia of the Seas wishing I was on a Disney cruise. I kept seeing the Disney Wish when we were in port, cruising alongside of us, all of that, and wishing I was over there. I definitely would have enjoyed the trip even more than I did. I mean, I definitely enjoyed the trip, but I would have really enjoyed the trip if I had gotten to do Walt Disney World and then a Disney cruise. This is something I have always wanted to do and have not yet done. I actually have also done on the West Coast, we did a Royal Caribbean cruise and then went to Disneyland afterwards, just for a couple days. And that was fun too, but I've never gotten to do the Disney combination. We actually also have done Universal and then a Disney cruise. I don't know why, but we've never done Disney and Disney together. And that is definitely something I would like to do. I would like to do Walt Disney World and a Disney cruise. And then the third thing I would do is I would make the Walt Disney World part slower and less intense. We actually kind of tacked on that Walt Disney World trip before the cruise, kind of at the last minute. And originally we're just going to be taking the cruise. It was evident, though, that we all enjoyed the Walt Disney World portion of this particular trip more than the cruise. Andrew especially really enjoyed getting to go to Walt Disney World because he had not been there in almost a decade. For his sake, I'm really glad we added on the Walt Disney World part because he had a lot of fun at Walt Disney World and got to see so much that had changed since the last time he was there. I tried to make it as quick and short as possible because we actually thought he was going to be starting his new job before that and that he was going to have to be taking this time off of work. So that's why we kept it pretty short. But he didn't end up doing that. He didn't end up starting his new job until September 9th. We went August 13th through the 23rd. So he could have taken more time for Disney, honestly, but I probably couldn't have afforded anything longer than that at the time because this was a really expensive trip, obviously. But in the future, if we do this again, I would space out the Disney portion. We still might only do one day at each park, but I would probably put in a couple of rest days in there, like so we could, just sleep in or enjoy the pool at our hotel or something like that. And then the thing that I would do the same, that I would definitely do the same if I do this again in the future, is I would definitely do Walt Disney World first and the cruise second. And the reason that I say that is because you're very active and on the go at the Walt Disney World portion, and it's pretty tiring. You're doing a lot of walking. And it was very nice to then go to the cruise and do a more relaxing, slow-paced type of vacation at the end, if you will, or second. I will show you, this is what our walking looked like when we were at Walt Disney World. These are in order: Hollywood Studios, Epcot, Magic Kingdom, specifically Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, and Animal Kingdom. And then still a lot of walking, but significantly less. Here's our steps for each day of the cruise. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which was the sea day, and Thursday. And then just if you're curious, here's what we did for walking at Kennedy Space Center. It's definitely a lot of walking all around. I actually like that because when I'm home, I hardly get to walk at all. And that's very bad actually for my bad back and stuff. I need to walk as much as possible. But I did like that we had the more relaxing portion of the vacation come second and that the more active, tiring part was first. And I would definitely do that the same. So how about you guys? What do you think of this? Have you ever done Disney World and then a cruise, or some other theme park and then a cruise, or vice versa? Do you agree with me on these things that I would do differently in the same? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I really appreciate all of your likes and comments. They help my channel to grow and help YouTube to know to share these videos with more people. So thank you in advance for liking this video and for commenting. Have a great day, everyone, and safe travels.